Hey, welcome to episode 8 of Ads from the Week, where I share a few vintage newspaper ads that I clipped from either the San Francisco Examiner or the Oakland Tribune, which would be concurrent with the past work week of Monday, August 3rd through to Friday, August 7th, 2026. So let's start our journey. And I'm going to say we're going from doing 10 ads, two a day, down to doing 5 ads, one a day, just because of it's just a little too time consuming. And I was getting burned out and spending way too much time hunched in front of my computer trying to find ads. And, I really want to get back to you know, reading and watching movies and get away from this infernal attention sucking device. So it's 5 ads. And this was a really, really good week to kick off this new streamlined format or attention. Because on August 3rd, 1976, Bert I. Gordon's film version of H.G. Wells' novel The Food of the Gods will start tomorrow. Um, while there were all kinds of newspaper ads and television spots that would unnerve or frighten me, there were only two that out and out terrified me. You Okay, I might throw Beyond the Door in there as well. But the two that really, I mean, I was afraid to even look or contemplate them. One was the television spot for the 1977 re-release of Larry Cohen's It's Alive, which had the bassinet turning around and the claw and the heartbeat and the cry. Just, at the age of 10, that gave, yeah, I was terrified of that. Um, the other was the poster art and television spots for today's subject, Bert I. Gordon, also known as Mr. Big, uh, and his film adaptation of The Food of the Gods, which technically was his second go around adapting the Food of the Gods. I think in the late '60s, he did a film. I think Ron Howard was in it actually, and Beau Bridges and a couple other. And it was called Village of the Giants, where some teenagers ate the food of the gods and became giant. And it was a very colorful, very silly, comedic take on the second half of the story. Uh, and the food of the gods actually kind of like is the first half of the story, or the first few chapters where they were doing, uh, I guess, animal testing on this compound the scientists had created, and there were giant chickens, giant rats, and I think maybe some other things. But Bert I. Gordon took that opening and ran with it in a direction that is delightfully silly and goofy. Um, I you know I Yeah, again, that poster art just terrified me at the age of 9, and I was afraid to see this movie, and I didn't see it until it debuted on, I think, the 3:30 movie. And when I did see it, I was like, "This is stupid, but it's fun." And the entire movie is a deviation from what Wells' novel, because the the food of the gods, whatever it is, comes bubbling out of the ground, and right, and yeah, look, there's no logic in this movie. and it is as goofy and silly as you can possibly think. But it's a lot of fun. I what I also thought was fun was that this ad is from the San Francisco Examiner, so it's listing the St. Francis, which is a theater I went to a lot, the Empire, which is a theater I went to a lot and I worked at in 1986 and 87, and the El Rancho Drive-In, which probably no longer exists and is now replaced with condominiums or stores or something. But um, this movie was paired on a double feature with David Cronenberg's challenging and unsettling sexual zombie movie, pod person movie. They Came From Within, which makes for a very oil and water mix. But that would definitely have been an interesting double bill for those who saw it. But I highly doubt that I would have truly have understood the adult themes and nuances of They Came From Within in August of 1976, considering, as I said earlier, I would have been all of 9, and I believe I was about to start the 4th grade. So there's no way my mom and dad would have taken me to see They Came From Within. Or if it was on, my dad would say, "We're leaving this theater." And I was too scared of the posters and the ads for the Food of the Gods to dare go see it. So that's a movie that slipped through my fingers, but um, one that I enjoy revisiting on occasion. And talking about it makes me want to revisit again. Oh, how a guy that lucky happened to him. I guess his luck ran out. If you know, you know. Okay, we're gonna bop forward. Well, no, we're actually bopping back 5 years on August 4th, 1971. Double bill. American International Pictures released a double bill of the Japanese giant monster movie Yog Monster from Space, which is better known today as Space Amoeba. And they had it coupled with the landmark Spanish Gothic horror thriller, The House That Screamed, which was an early Spanish Gothic horror. I think they made it in '69, and it was shot in English, I believe. I have yet to see it. Oh, yes, right here. There is an interesting review for The House That Screamed in John Stanley's Creature Feature Movie Guide. I have several editions of this, and I should have put a um, bookmark in here because nothing says thrilling visual storytelling or editorializing or content creation or whatever you want to call whatever it is that I'm doing here, like thumbing through a book and staring off camera. But it says here, The House That Screamed, 1971, which was actually The Residence, 1969. And it says here in this Revenge of the Creature Features movie guide, polished, handsomely produced Spanish horror film set in a 19th century boarding school for young women. A touch of class is provided by Lily Palmer as the headmistress who runs a taut ship, permitting sadism and sex because she considers her job impossible. That's in quotations. The film excellently captures the oppressive sexual needs of the girls with erotic, artsy intercutting, heavy lesbian overtones, and one intense hazing scene. Suddenly, the girls are attacked by a knife killer, their bodies disappearing. While the outcome is predictable, it's the style of director Narciso Ibanez Serrano that makes this so enjoyable. Stars Christina Gaibo, Mary Maud, and John Mulder Brown. So there you go. I think Arrow Home Video put it out, and I think Screen Factory also put it out. So it's available out there. It is a Spanish Gothic that is not in my collection yet, but it should be at some point. Also not in my collection yet, but should be at some point, is Yog Monster from Space, also known as Space Amoeba, also known as uh, a laundry list of monster names, and I think that's what that was called in Japan. Mongo, what are you doing? He picked up a cat bed and he's carrying it out through the house in his mouth. Kittens. So where was I? Yeah, I did see Yog, or I did see up through the giant squid sequence of Yog, Monster from Space, on the big screen because either the Alameda Showcase or the Alameda South Shore. It was probably still the Showcase at this point at the South Shore Mall in Alameda, California. In the summertime or on the weekends, they would have matinee shows for children, and that was where I got to see like Batman 1966, King Kong versus Godzilla, a couple of Dexter Riley movies, and some other stuff that I probably have been lost and buried under the sands of time. Um, but I went and I saw this movie, or my mom dropped me off at the theater, and I was really super stoked about the opening and everything. So I had to share it with her. So I left the theater, walked home, talked to my mom about how there was a cool giant squid movie there, and I was going to go back and finish it. And then I returned to the theater without realizing that that was probably about a 2 hour walk round trip. And when I got back, she was, yeah, that movie ended hours ago. So them's the breaks. But I do remember seeing like the space amoeba come into the space capsule and the giant squid monster or the giant squid come out and like walk all over the town and then leave, and then the space amoeba leaves the carcass of the squid. So I do have some of that memory, and hopefully I'll be able to revisit these films or revisit Yog and see the house that screamed at some point. The hazing ritual in the house that screamed, I did see it seems to have some parallels with the spanking scene in Hunchback of the Morgue, which I talked about in a stuff of the week video. So yeah, Spanish Gothic's weird. All right, we're going to shoot forward 4 years now. These are all set in the 70s, by the way, or these ads all come from the 1970s this week. August 5th, 1975, and Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, starts tomorrow. And this is another movie I do remember seeing on the big screen and enjoying immensely uh, when I saw it on the big screen, and being super stoked because the movie. This is not a spoiler. The movie ends with like Doc Savage driving away, and it and as he's driving by, they do a kind of like a Bond style, like Doc Savage will return in, and they gave the title of this movie, and not this movie, The Man of Bronze, but it was another one. Just kind of like how Buckaroo Banzai ended with a promise that he was going to go fight, like, what was it, the World Crime League, whatever. And, James Bond will return in random Ian Fleming title. That may or may not have been the basis for whatever story they slapped together for that entry. Uh, and it was that kind of thing, but that movie never came to pass because this movie didn't really catch on with audiences, I believe. It was the last film of George Paul, who produced and co-wrote. Um, and I think Lorenzo Semple Jr. worked on the script, which explains a lot because it has the same campy style and approach that as Batman, the 1960s TV series, and that kind of like had that same campy sheen that was over the King Kong remake from '76 that Semple wrote the script for. Um, The director was Michael Anderson, who I think followed this up with Logan's Run, and would also direct the movie Millennium, which was based off a John Barley short story. Somebody corrected me on that. A short story called Air Raid, I believe. But and Anderson also yeah, he followed this with Logan's Run in '76, and in '77 Orca, the killer whale. So you can just kind of get an idea of the kind of movies that Michael Anderson made or directed. Although I think he didn't his version of Around the World in 80 Days win Best Picture or something. I should have done some fact checking, but I'm spitballing and in the weeds here. Going back, the only thing I do remember about uh, Doc Savage, the Man of Bronze, other than Ron Ely and the sparkle in his eye, and is the green snakes, which I could not find any video of. It's interesting. Maybe that scene was too intense for YouTube or whatnot, or but I did find some pictures, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't imagine that. Those green snakes when they attack the guy on the boat or something. And I remember I was working at Blockbuster Video, and there was a guy who was talking about one of his kinder traumas, and he was talking about this movie where there were these flying snakes that bit this guy to death, and he was like just blood caked and screeching and in agony. And I was like, oh yeah, that's Doc Savage, Man of Bronze. It's right over here in the adventure section. He refused to rent the movie because he's like, it's too terrifying in my memory. I don't want to ruin it. I'm like, yeah, it's a kind of a campy movie, but yeah, that scene is pretty dang intense. And I do find it interesting that this movie is on a double bill with a re-release of Zardoz at a few locations in San Francisco. And now we're going to shoot forward 3 years to August 6th, 1978, which was a Sunday. And the Sunday supplement lets us know that Warlords of Atlantis starts Wednesday. Now, this is another movie that I do remember seeing at the Alameda Showcase before it became the South Shore Cinema, or maybe or had become the South Shore Cinema. Maybe I can check the history on this, but I'm just going through the weeds of my childhood here, and I want to be. I like the weeds because sometimes I can find something that I didn't think I was going to find. And I'm pretty sure I probably saw this on its opening weekend. I don't think it was around all that long. I'm not too sure. But it was one of a cycle of films that Kevin Connor directed that starred Doug McClure in these period science fiction, fantasy adventures, and Lost Race or Lost World movies. I think it kicked off with The Land That Time Forgot in '75, and then it was At the Earth's Core in '76, and then it was, I think, The People That Time Forgot in '77, and then Warlords of Atlantis in '78, which was like the last one because I think Arabian Adventure was the one he made after this, and McClure wasn't in it. I think McClure had gone on to do other things, or was just like, okay, I'm kind of done with this, or maybe this movie underperformed at the box office. I don't know. But I do remember seeing it on the big screen. I don't remember much about it other than the scene where the guy they put the helmet on the dude and his eyes glow as he gets like these visions of like the potential for like if Atlantis was to rule the world and everything, and then he figures out, oh my God, you're Nazis, and yeah. And then there was a dinosaur monster that ate a guy. Uh, but yeah, I don't I do remember seeing it, but I don't remember much about it. And I think I also got the chance to revisit it either on home video or on HBO at some point, or maybe it was on TV with commercials. I don't know, but it's a fond memory, and I know there's a novelization out there floating around, so I might track that down and revisit it at some point. But not this week. maybe next year when I come cycling around again. Okay. Speaking of cycling around again, we're gonna go back in time a measly 1 year to August 7th, 1977, which was also a Sunday. And the San Francisco Examiner Chronicle date book section had an ad for Suspiria, letting us know it's going to start Wednesday. And this was the the second in Dario Argento's legendary 1-2 punch that came with 1975 with Deep Red, which was a box office smash internationally, and I think it actually did quite well in American theaters. And I do think that there is, although I remember watching it on television, there was a time when it played theatrically as the Hatchet Murders, and although I remember glimpsing an ad for it, so it's probably going to pop up at some point on one of these episodes. But I don't have any memory of this movie's theatrical release, or the ads in the paper. I just don't, which is weird because I remember a lot of other movies and a lot of other things from this time, usually like Food of the Gods or Empire of the Ants or whatnot. So I'm thinking that my kid's mind was focused on certain things and other things were just ignored, and so they didn't register. Um, but this was also a box office smash for um, Argento, and it was distributed in the States, although the distribution company listed, wasn't listed as 20th Century Fox. It was 20th Century Fox that distributed the movie, and it evidently did quite well for the studio. And so much so that they actually gave a little money to the next film in this purported trilogy, which would have been Inferno, which would have come out in 1980. And yet a regime change at Fox scuttled the the fact that the market was changing, and transitioning to home video. So it was not a movie that got a substantiative theatrical release, if any. Inferno, the 1980 Argento picture, that was a thematic sequel to Suspiria. It was about the second of the three mothers, but yeah. Also, I got a few years back. We, as a birthday present, we took one of our nephews on a trip of his choice. Tanya, when they were growing up, had made a promise that on their 18th birthday, she would take each of them on an international trip of their choice. And I married into this agreement. And so the first nephew, the eldest, his choice had been Germany because he is big into trains and metro stations. And um, but so we went to Munich and we went to Berlin, and I knew in Munich that uh, that was where portions of Suspiria had been shot, and I did manage to get to the BMW uh, museum and building, which is the exterior location of which, or the exterior of which was the location where Jessica Harper meets up with a psychologist or parapsychologist or psychiatrist, a specialist in supernatural myth and folklore, played by Udo Kier. I just blanked on his name. I could picture him, and I was like, but Udo Kier, the late great Udo Kier. And so I got to see like a portion I got to see the building and everything, but the area around it was fenced off and no trespassing. So the actual location of where that scene was shot, because when the camera pans down the building to this little like courtyard where they're sitting and they have their conversation, that was closed off. I couldn't get to it. I do know that there have been people that have, dared to climb over the fence and get a picture of that location, but I am not that agile and not that determined. I mean, I got to the building. I got to be where, Dario Argento and Udo Kier and Jessica Harper and all who and anybody else, maybe Lamberto Bava, or maybe, was there. But anyway, it was a wonderful visit. It's a wonderful movie. Really weird and loud and nightmarish and just a wonderful way to kick off a weekend. And that was the week. Those were the ads from the week. Only five, but and there'll only be five next week. I don't know which ones there'll be. I usually on my blogs I post 10. One over at Ghoulies, Ghosties, and Long-Legged Beasties, which is my primary blog, and that's where all the horror, science fiction, fantasy, monster movie ones go. And then like the magazines and the books, if they're like more mainstream or not horror, science fiction, fantasy centric, all that stuff goes over at the newspaper ad archive. And next week, I don't know which books or movies or ads I'm going to discuss, but there'll be five. And until then, let's all try and have some fun, okay? Bye. Enough is never enough.